So Andrew Yang teared up listening to the story of a gun violence victim who lost her children. Take a look at this.
My beautiful 4-year-old daughter, Dayla, was struck by a stray bullet March 2011. My son, my daughter's twin brother, witnessed what happened that day. She died 2 days later. Firearms are the second leading cause of death for children and teenagers in the U.S., but 4.6 million American children live in homes with at least one gun that is loaded and unlocked, and hundreds of them gain access to a gun and unintentionally shoot themselves or someone else every year. As president, how would you address unintentional shootings by children?
Thank you for that. Can I give you a hug? Is that be appropriate? I have a 6 and 3-year-old boy. I was imagining. I was imagining it was one of them that got shot and the other saw it. I'm so sorry. The biggest downside of running for president for me has been that I don't get to see my family very much. So I get pictures, I FaceTime, I see pictures of my boys, and just that scene that she described, I'm sorry, it's like very, very affecting. You're right that when there's a gun in the household, you're more likely to have a child get shot or the owner get shot than to kill, let's say, an intruder into the house. Those are just numbers. Those are just the facts. So one of the things we can do, and it's very hard to get into Americans' houses where all of these guns are, but if we can convince Americans that personalized guns are a good idea, then again, if the child gets a hold of the gun, then they can't do anything with it. Then it just becomes a very heavy, expensive prop. And that's something that we can push. One of my proposals is to actually help gun owners upgrade their guns to personalized guns free of charge. Because if we can do that, then again, if you're a gun owner, and gun owners are parents, gun owners understand that, and some of them are concerned. So if you say, hey, we'll upgrade your guns for free, when we can do that, like you can upgrade the guns for free, and that would help make kids safer in our homes. I'm so sorry you had to, and that story should not be possible. I'm so sorry.
So I'm a little unclear as to what he said there in terms of the policy. He said personalized guns for free. I mean, my gut reaction to that is, oh, does he mean some sort of a process where, like, the gun only works if it's in the hands of its owner? I don't know how they do that. I don't know. I don't know the specifics of what he's talking about. I don't know if he means, like, a particular kind of lock on the gun where only the owner of the gun can make it function, or if it has something to do with the code, if it has... I don't know if there's, like, new technology for weapons that functions at that level. Perhaps that is the case, and perhaps that's exactly what he's referring to. I'm just unaware of it. But yeah, it sounds like he's referring to some sort of a law or a process by which guns that are in the home are just more secure and more safe, and you can't have accidental shootings involving kids. Because just so everybody knows, that does happen quite a bit in the United States. I mean, overall, we have 32,000 gun deaths a year. That's homicides, suicides, accidents, and every form of gun death. But we also have 10,000 homicides. And I don't know the exact number for accidents, but you can do the math. 32,000 minus 10,000 is 22,000 left over. Gun deaths, so how many of those 22,000 are accidents and how many of them are kids? It's really an unsettling thing to think about. But either way, it sounds like he's thought about this and he has an idea to try to, help fix it, which is a wonderful thing. And there's a point he made there which I think is really important that a lot of people don't know, which is a lot of people want guns for self-defense. Now, again, if you could pass a background check and you're mentally healthy and fit, then nobody could tell you you can't have that gun. But what we can also tell you, because it's true, is even though you think that gun makes you more safe, it actually makes you less safe. They've done many studies on this, and just the fact that you have a gun in the household means you are, by definition, less safe. All of the numbers bear that out. So even though it's a weird counterintuitive thing where somebody might get a gun and think, oh, I'm doing this to protect my home against whatever, criminals, burglars, robbers, whatever. Oh, I have a gun here, so now we're more safe. Actually, no, the statistics show you're less safe just because you bought that gun. Again, nobody can tell you can't get it if you're, somebody who can pass a background check and you're mentally fit and you go through the proper steps. That's all fine and dandy, but just know the reality of the situation, which is even though you think it's making you more safe, it's not. And then listen, so the reason why this made headlines is obvious. It was the tearing up, the crying, and I can tell you for sure that was sincere. So I've teared up in public before as well. I did it. I was given a best man speech at one of my best friend's weddings, and it just came out. There's nothing I could do about it. It just happened. And first of all, it's super embarrassing. You don't want anybody to see you in that kind of a state. And so there's almost like a natural pushback against it where you're trying to overcome it, but people could still tell that you're crying. And that's what happened here. I could tell he was kind of trying to like, all right, pull together type thing, but it just kind of came out that he was tearing up. And he said, hey, I'm thinking about what if it was my kids? And listen, if there's one thing to take away from this show, I always want you to do that exercise, because I feel like that's an exercise that's so incredibly important, where it will, just by virtue of the fact that you do that, it'll make you a better person. I always want you to think, what if it was me? What if it was my family? In whatever story I might be giving you, whether it's a story about how our healthcare system's so messed up and, somebody died because they couldn't get the medicine that they needed at a reasonable price. Whatever the story may be, some innocent civilians dying overseas because of a war that we're waging. I always want you to think, what if it was me? What if it was my family? What if it was my friends? What if it was my kids? So on and so forth. Because that's when you start, I feel like once people start doing that, it's not a very big leap to then try to craft a better world for everybody. And that's exactly what Andrew Yang did there. And so, it was definitely sincere, and I think that he's showing a degree of empathy and sympathy here imagine Trump doing that. Not possible. There was a story that went kind of viral the other day because Trump took a picture at the hospital with a recently orphaned baby. This baby's parents just got killed in a mass shooting. I don't know if it was the mass shooting or the El Paso terror attack. I don't remember which one it was. But so Trump does the photo op with the baby, and he's smiling and doing the thumbs up, and everybody's like, no, this was not one of those pictures where it's like you're at a rally and everything's all hunky-dory. You're supposed to at least show some degree of human empathy and like have a solemn face on, hold the baby, look at the baby, but don't try to portray it as something that's like outwardly positive. We're like, well, what do you mean? It's a picture. You smile in pictures, right? No, and then what people were doing is they were showing pictures of previous presidents in similar circumstances. And it's true. They're just more human in that they react appropriately to the situation. Bush had his moments where he laughs at funerals and shit, and everybody's like, what the fuck are you doing? So he's kind of creepy too. But there are some instances of him, like Obama, Clinton, Bush, even though, by the way, I'm not defending any of them, just to be clear. But when the context arises, they know how to be part of the context. Hug somebody who's suffering, who just lost their house in a flood or whatever it might be. But Trump, it's like, I don't know what it is, man. Maybe he was just high as fuck on Adderall at that point in time, and so he's happy even though he's in a horrendous circumstance. But he's like, with a newly orphaned baby that Melania's holding, and everybody was like, ooh, man, that is really weird. And contrast that with Yang here, and Yang is like, that's an appropriate reaction to hearing such a terrible, devastating story. He didn't go right to his political talking points, so he didn't pull a bet on my stork. Okay, he was like, no, let's reflect on this, and oh my God, that's so devastating and that's so sad. And by the way, this is one of those things where it's kind of unanimous. people who are regular people look at this and go, yeah, that's understandable. But also mainstream media eats this shit up because it gave them a moment to talk about the moment of him tearing up. Now, of course, they're not going to get into the specifics as we tried to do with his policy and whatnot, but this will at least get him positive press because it was a real moment. And it's a moment that we're not used to seeing people react like this. Our politicians react like this. We're used to seeing them go right back into their tap dance and their talking points and not really take a moment to reflect on what they were just told. So it was a good moment for Yang. It really is a devastating story from the mother there. And yeah, I mean, it's reason number 3,762 that we need to take some sort of reasonable measure on gun reform.